Chapter 8. It was long past noon when he awoke. His servant brought him a cup of tea and some letters. One of them was from Lord Henry, and had been brought by hand that morning. He put it to one side. Monsieur has well slept this morning, said the servant, smiling. What o'clock is it, Victor? Asked Dorian Gray. 1 hour and a quarter, Monsieur. How late it was! He went into the library for breakfast, feeling perfectly happy. Then he saw the open window and the covered portrait. Was it all true? Had the portrait really changed, or had it been simply his own imagination? But he remembered that cruel mouth so clearly. Dorian Gray sent his servant away and locked all the doors. Then he pulled the cover off the painting and saw himself face to face. It was true. The portrait had changed. For hours he did not know what to do or think. Finally, he went over to the table and wrote a passionate letter to the girl he had loved. He asked her to forgive him for the terrible things he had said to her. Suddenly he heard a knock. Suddenly he heard a knock on the door, and he heard Lord Henry's voice outside. "My dear boy, I must see you. Let me in at once." He made no answer, but remained quite still. The knocking continued and grew louder. Yes, it was better to let Lord Henry in. He would explain to him the new life he was going to lead. He jumped up, covered the picture, and opened the door. "I'm sorry about it all, Dorian," said Lord Henry as he entered. "But you must not think too much about it." "Do you mean about Sybil Vane?" asked the boy. "Yes, of course," answered Lord Henry, sitting down and slowly pulling off his yellow gloves. "It is terrible, but you are not to blame. Tell me, did you go behind and see her after it was over?" "Yes, I felt sure that you had. Did you have an argument?" "I was cruel, Harry, terrible cruel. But it is all right now. I'm not sorry for anything that has happened. It has taught me know myself better. Oh, Dorian, I'm so glad that you see it that way. I want to be good, Harry. I don't want my soul to be ugly. I'm going to marry Sybil Wayne. Mary Sybil Wayne, cried Lord Henry, standing up and staring at him in surprise. But, my dear Dorian. Yes, Harry, I know what you are going to say. Something dreadful about marriage. Don't ever say things of that kind to me again. 2 days ago I asked Sybil to marry me. I'm not going to break my word to her. Sybil will be my wife. Your wife, Dorian? Didn't you get my letter I wrote to you this morning? Your letter? Oh yes, I remember. I have not read it yet, Harry. You know nothing yet then? What do you mean? Lord Henry walked across the room and sat down next to Dorian. Dorian, he said, my letter was to tell you that Sybil Wayne is dead. A cry of pain came from the boy's lips, and he jumped to his feet. Dead? Sybil is dead? It is not true. It is a horrible lie. How dare you say it? It's true, Dorian, said Lord Henry. It's in all the morning newspapers. The police will be asking questions, and you must keep your name out of any scandal. Things like that make a man fashionable in Paris, but in London they are a disaster for any gentleman. I suppose they don't know your name at the theatre. If they don't, it is all right. Did anyone see you going round to her room? That is an important point. Dorian did not answer for a few moments. Finally he said in a strange voice, Harry, did you say that the police are asking questions? What did you mean by that? Did Sybil? Oh, Harry, this is terrible. I've no doubt it was not an accident, Dorian, though it must be described that way officially. She had swallowed something by mistake, some dreadful thing they use at theatre. Harry, it's terrible, cried the boy. Yes, it is very tragic, of course, but it is nothing to do with you. She was 17. She looked such a child and seemed to know so little about acting. Come with me to dinner, and after we will go to the opera. The opera? How can I go to the opera when the woman I loved has died because of me? That's exactly why you should go. Dorian, this is not your fault. Life is full of tra- tragedies. You are young and good-looking. Sybil Wayne is in your past. Think of the future. You can do anything. So I have murdered Sybil Wayne, said Dorian Gray half to himself. Yet the roses are not less lovely. The birds still sing happily in my garden. And tonight I will have dinner with you and go to the opera. How dramatic life is. My first passionate love letter was to a dead girl. She was everything to me, and now she's dead. My God, my God. Harry, what shall I do? Yet why is it that I cannot feel this tragedy as much as I want to? I don't think I am heartless. Do you? You have done too many foolish things in the last fortnight to be heartless, Dorian, answered Lord Henry with his sweet sad smile. The boy frowned. I don't like that explanation, Harry, he said, but I'm glad you don't think I'm heartless. A woman has killed herself for the love of you, said Lord Henry. That's very beautiful. They were silent. The evening darkened in the room. After some time, Dorian Gray looked up. How well you know me, but we will not talk again of what has happened. It has been something wonderful. That is all. Now I have to dress, Harry. I feel too tired to eat anything, but I will join you later. As Lord Henry closed the door behind him, Dorian rushed to the portrait and tore off the cover. No, there was no further change in the picture. It had received the news of Sybil Wayne's death before he had known of it himself. Tears came to his eyes as he remembered her. He brushed them away and looked again at the picture. He felt the time had come to choose, or had he already chosen? Yes, life had decided that for him. The portrait was going to cry his shame. That was all. Dorian wanted to believe that Sybil's death was not his fault. He did not want to feel guilty or evil. Lord Henry's words made him feel better. Why shouldn't he go to the opera? He thought. If the picture of him was going to change after every evil act he did and he was going to stay young and beautiful, why should he care? An hour later he was at the opera and Lord Henry was sitting beside him. Chapter 9. As he was eating breakfast the next morning, Basil Hallward was shown into the room. I'm so glad I have found you, Dorian, he said. I called last night and they told me that you were at the at the theater. Of course, I knew that was impossible. I know what you must suffer. I had a terrible evening worrying whether one tragedy would be followed by another. I can't tell you how heartbroken I'm about the whole thing. But where were you? Did you go down and see the girl's mother? What did she say about it all? My dear Basil, how do I know? Murmured Dorian Gray. He looked very bored. I was at the opera. You went to the opera, said Hallward, speaking very slowly. You went to the opera while Sybil Vane was lying dead? Stop, Basil. I want her it, cried Dorian, leaping to his feet. You must not speak of such things. What is done is done. What is past is past. You call yesterday the past? Dorian, this is horrible. Something has changed you completely. You look exactly the same as the wonderful boy in my picture, but now there is no heart in you. It is all Harry's influence. I see that. The boy went to the window and looked out at the garden for a few moments. Harry has taught me many things, Basil, he said at last. You only taught me to be vain. Well, I am punished for that, Dorian, or shall be someday. I don't know what you mean, Basil, he said, turning round. I don't know what you want. What do you want? I want the Dorian Gray I used to paint, said the artist sadly. Basil, said the boy, going over to him and putting his hand on his shoulder, you have come too late. Yesterday when I heard that Sybil Vane had killed herself. Killed herself? My God, is there no doubt about that? Cried Hallward. My dear Basil, of course she killed herself. The older man put his face in his hands. "How terrible," he said in a quiet voice. "No," said Dorian Gray. "There is nothing terrible about it. It is one of the great romantic tragedies of our time. I know you are surprised at me talking to you like this. You have not realized how I have changed. I was a boy when you knew me. I'm a man now. I have new passions, new thoughts, new ideas. But Dorian, I am different, but you must not like me less. You came here to console me. That is charming of you. Of course, I am very fond of Harry, but I know that you are better than he is. You are not stronger. You are too afraid of life, but you are better. And how happy we used to be together. Don't leave me, Basil, and don't argue with me. I am what I am. There is nothing more to be said." The painter felt strangely sad. Dorian Gray was very important to him. The boy had changed his art. Perhaps his cruel talk about Sybil Vane was just a mood that would pass away. There was so much in him that was good. "Dorian, how can you talk like that about someone you loved?" Sybil Vane was an actress. She died as Juliet would die. It is just another tragedy. I choose to live for pleasure and not regret the past. You have changed, Dorian. You still look the same as when I first saw you, but you are different. You used to be so kind and innocent. Now you talk like you have no heart. Harry has influenced you. I see that. Dorian smiled. "Well, Dorian," said Basil sadly, I won't speak to you again about this horrible thing. I only hope that your name is kept out of any scandal. Have the police asked to see you?" Dorian shook his head. They don't even know my name," he answered. "She didn't know your name." She didn't know your name? "Only my first name, and I'm sure that she did not tell it to anyone. She told her family that I was Prince Charming. It was pretty of her. You must do me a drawing of Basil." I would like to have something more of her than the memory of a few kisses. I will try and do something, Dorian. But you must come and sit for me again. I can't work so well without you. I can never sit for you again, Basil. It is impossible, he exclaimed. The painter stared at him. My dear boy, what nonsense, he cried. Do you mean to say you don't like what I did of you? Where is it? Let me look at it. It is the best thing I have ever done. Basil was confused. He wanted to believe that Dorian was the pure good, innocent boy he had first met. He hoped that Sybil's death had caused Dorian's strange behaviors. Basil looked up and saw the screen in front of the picture. Do take the screen away, Dorian. Why have you covered it? Let me look at it. It is the best thing I have ever done. It is very bad of your servant to hide my work like that. I felt the room looked different as I came in. It was not my servant who covered it, Basil. I did it myself. The light was too strong on the portrait. Too strong? No, the light is perfect in here. Let me see it. And Hallward walked towards the corner of the room. A cry of terror came from Dorian Gray's lips, and he rushed between the painter and the covered portrait. Basil, you must not look at it. I don't want you to. Not look at my own work. You are not serious. Why shouldn't I look at it? Exclaimed Hallward, laughing. If you try to look at it, Basil, on my word of honor, I will never speak to you again as long as I live. I'm quite serious. Hallward looked at Dorian Gray in surprise. He had never seen him like this before. The boy's face was white and angry. Dorian, don't speak. But what is the matter? Of course I won't look at it if you don't want me to, he said coldly, walking over to the window. But it seems rather absurd that I cannot see my own work when I am going to exhibit it in Paris in the autumn. To exhibit it? You want to exhibit it? Exclaimed Dorian Gray. A terrible fear was building inside him. Was the world going to see his secret? Were people going to stare at the mystery of his life? That was impossible. Yes, I don't suppose you will object to that. Don't worry, it is only for 1 month. Dorian Gray passed his hand across his face. It felt hot and wet. He felt that he was about to face horrible danger. You told me a month ago that you would never exhibit it, he cried. Why have you changed your mind? He stopped suddenly and a cruel look came into his eyes. He had remembered something Lord Henry had said to him. Ask Basil why he won't exhibit your picture. He told me once, and it is a very strange story. Yes, perhaps Basil too had his secret. He would ask him and try. Basil, he said, coming over quite close and looking him straight in the face. We all have secrets. Let me know yours and I shall tell you mine. What was your reason for refusing to exhibit my picture? Dorian, if you thought you might like me less than you do now, and you would certainly laugh at me. If you don't want me ever to look at your picture again, I won't. I have always you to look at. Your friendship is dearer to me than any fame or reputation. No, Basil, you must tell me, said Dorian Gray. I think I have a right to know. His feeling of terror had passed away, and curiosity had taken its place. Let us sit down, Dorian, said the painter, looking troubled. Let us sit down and just answer me one question. Have you ever noticed something in the picture? Something strange? Basil, cried the boy, staring at him with wild eyes. I see you did. Don't speak. Wait till you hear what I have to say, Dorian. From the moment I met you, your personality and the most extraordinary influence over me. I worshipped you. I was jealous of everyone you spoke to. I wanted to have you all to myself. I was only happy when I was with you. When you were away from me, you were still present in my art. I hardly understood it myself. Basil, no, don't speak. I must tell you now what I did not tell you then. I decided to paint a wonderful portrait of you. I put all my feelings for you into that I felt, Dorian, that I had told you too much. I had put too much of myself into it. I into it. So I decided never to exhibit the portrait. I told Harry, and he laughed. When the picture was finished, and I sat alone with it, I felt that I saw right. Later, I thought that perhaps I was being foolish, and when this Paris offer came, but I see now that the picture cannot be shown. You must not be angry with me, Dorian, for what I have told you. Dorian Gray breathed deeply. The color came back to his cheeks, and a smile crossed his lips. The danger was over, and he was safe for a while. What a sad story Basil had told. Would he ever be so influenced by the personality of a friend? Lord Henry had the charm of being very dangerous, but that was all. It is extraordinary to me, Dorian, said Hallward, that you saw this in the portrait. I saw something in it, he answered, something that seemed to me very strange. Well, you don't mind me looking at the thing now? Dorian shook his head. You must not ask me that, Basil. I cannot let you stand in front of that picture. You will one day, won't you? Never. Well, perhaps you are right. And now goodbye, Dorian. You have been the one person in my life who has really influenced my art. Whatever I have done that is good, I owe to you. You don't know what it cost me to tell you all that I have told you. I'm embarrassed because all of my feelings for you and for art are in that picture, and I know that it is wrong to worship human beauty so much. We are not perfect, and even a work of art should not show that we are. My dear Basil, said Dorian, what have you told me? Simply that you felt that you admired me too much. That is not even a compliment. It was not intended as a compliment, and now that I have told you, something seems to have gone out of me. Perhaps you should never put what you worship into words. You mustn't talk about worship. It is foolish. You and I are friends, Basil, and we will always be friends. You have got Harry, said the painter sadly. Oh, Harry, laughed the young man. Harry spends his life saying and doing extraordinary things. He lives the sort of life I want to live, but I don't think I would go to Harry if I were in trouble. I would sooner go to you, Basil. You will sit for me again? Impossible. I can't explain it to you, Basil, but I must never sit to you again. There is something fatal about a portrait. It has a life of its own. I will come and have tea with you. Well, goodbye then. I'm sorry that you won't let me look at the picture again, but I understand what you feel about it. As he left the room, Dorian Gray smiled to himself. Poor Basil! How little he knew of the true reason, and now he understood more the painter's wild and jealous feelings, and he felt sorry. There was something tragic in a friendship so corrupted by passion. Dorian's face relaxed, its natural color returned. He sat down, feeling safe that the secret of the picture had not been found out. He rang the bell to call his servant. The portrait must be hidden away immediately. After Basil had gone, Dorian covered the picture in a purple and gold cloth, then had it taken up to a small room at the top of the house, which no one ever entered. He locked the picture in that room, and always kept the key to it with him. He felt safe now that no one would ever see the picture, which showed the dark secrets of his soul. Chapter 10. When the servant entered, Dorian Gray taught him to tell the housekeeper that he wanted to see her. Mrs. Leaf had been with his family for many years. He asked her for the key to the old schoolroom. The old schoolroom, Mr. Dorian, she exclaimed, but it is full of dust. I must clean it first. I don't want it cleaned. Just give me the key. Give me the key. Well, sir, you'll be covered with dust if you go into it. It hasn't been open for nearly 5 years, not since your grandfather died. Here is the key, sir, said the old lady. But you are not going to live up there, are you, sir? No, he cried. Thank you, Mrs. Leaf. You can go. An hour later, 2 men arrived to move the portrait. It's very heavy, sir, said one of the men, as they climbed the stairs. I'm afraid it is rather heavy, murmured Dorian, as he unlocked the door of the old schoolroom, where he was going to hide the secret of his corrupted soul. He had not entered the room since he was child. It was a large room built by his grandfather to keep him at this distance. Every moment of his lonely childhood came back to him as he looked round. It was a room full of terrible memories, but it was safe. He had the key, and no one else could enter it. The face in the portrait could grow old and ugly. What did it matter? No one could see it. He himself would not see it. He did not have to match the terrible corruption of his soul. He would stay young. That was enough. When the men had gone, Dorian locked the door and put the key in his pocket. He felt safe. Now. No one would ever look at that horrible thing. Only he would ever see his shame. He went back to the library and found a note from Lord Henry. In it was a report from the newspaper about Sybil Vane. Her death was officially described as an accident. He frowned and tore the paper in two. Then he walked across the room and drew the pieces away. How ugly it all was, and how horribly real ugliness made things. Perhaps the servant had read the report and had begun to suspect something, and yet, what did it matter? What had Dorian Gray to do with Sybil Wane's death? There was nothing to fear. Dorian Gray had not killed her. His eye fell on the yellow book that Lord Henry had sent him. What was it? He wondered. It was the strangest book that he had ever read. It was a novel without a plot and with only one character. It was almost 9 o'clock before he reached the club where he found Lord Henry sitting alone, looking very much bored. "I'm so sorry, Harry," he cried, "but really it is entirely your fault. That book you sent me so fascinated me that I forgot how the time was going." "Yes, I thought you would like it," replied his host, rising from his chair. "I didn't say I liked it, Harry. I said it fascinated me. There is a great difference." "You have discovered that?" murmured Lord Henry, and they passed into the dining room. Chapter 11. For years Dorian Gray could not free himself from the influence of this book. The hero, the wonderful young Parisian, became to him a kind of type of himself, and indeed the whole book seemed to him to contain the story of his own life written before he had lived it. The years passed, and the picture of Dorian Gray grew more and more ugly. Dorian himself looked exactly as he did when he was 20. For many years, people had heard strange and terrible things about Dorian Gray, but they did not believe these things. Many people suspected that there was something very wrong with Dorian's life, but only he knew about the portrayed. There were rumors that Dorian did horrible things and went to horrible places, but no one knew for sure if they were true. Lord Henry was still his closest friend, and he and Dorian threw famous parties at Dorian's beautifully decorated house with famous musicians and beautiful women, and Dorian always had the look of someone who had kept himself pure. Dorian became interested in everything which made life beautiful on the outside. Jewels, perfume, fine clothes, gold, silver, but he would go to the room at the top of his house every once in a while to see how he would look if his true character showed on his face. Dorian had become selfish and irresponsible. He did not care about the consequence of his behavior because he always looked young and beautiful. He lost many friends, and there were many people who hated him, but there were also those who thought he was some kind of modern hero. He was rich and handsome, and the Wilde stories people thought about him seemed exciting if they were true. When he was 20, Dorian had been a beautiful young man. Now he was 38 and he was still a beautiful young man. People thought he must be good and kind. People were wrong. The strange and terrible things were true. Dorian was unkind and cruel. Dorian spent time in strange places and he knew evil men. But only Dorian knew the secret of the picture. He often went up to the attic room. He unlocked the room and stood in front of the picture for hours. The face of the man in the picture was ugly and wrinkled. The face was getting older and older, and it was very, very evil. The picture showed the evil inside Dorian Gray. It showed the evil in his soul. Often Dorian looked at the picture, then looked in a mirror. The picture locked in the room at the top of his house changed with every one of Dorian's cruel or selfish acts. It was a portrait of a man who looked much other than Dorian Gray. Dorian was now almost 38, but the man in the picture had thin gray hair. His face was wrinkled and his body looked old and weak. He laughed when he saw his face in the mirror. It was young and beautiful. Dorian's wish had come true. Dorian had been happy for many years. He had enjoyed his life. He had not cared about other people. Dorian had done the things Harry had taught him to do. Dorian was a rich man. He bought a house in the country. He bought valuable pictures and fine books, and he bought beautiful furniture. He wrote beautiful clothes and expensive jewelry. He always wore many rings on his fingers. But now Dorian was worried. He was worried because he was not happy any longer. Some people would not speak to him now. Some people would leave a room when he entered it. Some people told stories about the strange life of Dorian Gray, and Dorian was worried that somebody would find out the truth. He was worried that somebody would see the portrait. Then everybody would find out that the stories were true. They would find out that he was an evil man. Often Dorian left dinner parties early and hurried home to see his portrait. Sometimes he went on holiday, then hurried home to see his portrait again. On returning home, he himself would creep upstairs to the locked room, open the door with the key that never left him now, and stand with a mirror in front of the portrait that Basil Hallward had painted of him. He would look first at the horrible old face in the picture, and then at the handsome young face that laughed back at him from the mirror. He fell more and more in love with his own beauty, and more interested in the corruption of his own soul, and he was afraid. What if the portrait should be stolen? Surely the world would know his secret then. Perhaps the world already suspected it.